Greetings, everyone. My name is Jonathan Bailey, and I am from the website Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. Sorry for the lack of a video yesterday. Suffered a power outage that corrupted my upload to YouTube, so therefore, no video. By the time I would have gotten it online, it would have been too late realistically, and other stuff had happened that I wanted to talk about more. Namely, the big news today, what everyone has been going on about on internet forums, has been the recent release of the Dotcom raid video. I'm going to link to it in the description if I remember to when I put this online. But basically, footage from the raid on Dotcom's mansion has been leaked to the news and then subsequently leaked online. And it's raised some very serious and I think very interesting questions about, was this level of force used? I mean, there's really nothing in the video that we didn't already know. We knew this raid involved, men with assault weapons, a helicopter, and all that stuff, and then Kim ran into his panic room and hid, and basically it just sort of gives a video account of the story that, truth be told, both sides had already said about the raid itself. But what's been interesting to me, and kind of where I want to take this today, is not so much the issue of was this justifiable force. That's a debate that is not going to be over, but really the nature of Dotcom himself and what's happened to him. A person who, though running one of the largest websites in the world prior to the seizure of Mega Upload, a person that was relatively unknown despite his unless outside of New Zealand at least, but a very flamboyant figure. So I wanted to take a moment and think about that, because what's happened to him is that there's kind of been a dueling narrative. The main one, and what I'm seeing a lot of, well, I shouldn't say the main one, but the main one I'm seeing right now with the release of this footage, is the narrative of a guy who is a sort of a folk hero of the internet, a guy who was just running a legitimate site and got unfairly targeted by U.S. authorities and New Zealand authorities at the behest of copyright holders here in the United States, and has had his life completely destroyed. And he is something of a, like I said, a folk hero, a guy to be admired, to be lauded, and to be protected and to fight for. On the other side of the coin, you have people who view him explicitly as a pirate overlord, a pirate king, a guy who knowingly paid people to upload and make available copyrighted works, and who hid behind certain legal protections by paying lip service to them without actually following the spirit of the law. So, which is true? Well, the truth of the matter is much more complicated. The narrative of Dotcom as a folk hero is deeply flawed. And it's deeply flawed because, first and foremost, it ignores several things in his past. For example, those who are saying that this use of force was completely excessive and unreasonable, and jumping to conspiracy theories, which consequently is what my talk yesterday was about, but maybe I'll have to redo that one later. But those people are deliberately ignoring elements of his past. Namely, that just 2 years prior to founding Mega Upload in 2003, Dotcom was actually convicted of embezzlement and fraud. At least I believe it was embezzlement. I know it was embezzlement. I think fraud was included too. Don't hold me to that one though. But the bigger issue there is he fled the charges. He actually was arrested in Thailand and had to be deported back to Germany to face the largest fine for the crime that the law could give in Germany, which was 100,000 euros at the time, but also to face his probation. Now, it ended up not being a very serious charge in terms of jail time or anything, but he still fled. And when someone flees charges once in their life, police have no reason to assume they're going to stick around for the second. And they'd be unwise to make that assumption, frankly. So does that justify the level of force? Not necessarily. But it adds another twist, a complication to the narrative. And that's what I'm talking about here. The narratives about Dotcom, both of them, are highly flawed. This story, the Dotcom story, perhaps more than others with copyright and perhaps more than others with legal issues in general, is complicated, nuanced, and deals with people that don't have just one side to them. You can't summarize Dotcom in a couple of words. You can't summarize him as folk hero, you can't summarize him as pirate king. Neither really works. And this is true for all things in life, I think. This is true for these political discussions, but just about anything else. If you're being fed a narrative about a person or an event or a thing that fits very neatly into a simple, clear, and concise story, you need to think about where that information's coming from. Because the truth of the matter is, it's probably either A, omitting some very important information, or B, playing up something that might be very trivial. And both sides of a discussion will use oversimplification. And I'm seeing this in copyright law all the time. It's not just the MPAA and the RIAA that likes to simplify issues and trump up unimportant information while burying other stuff. You know, I've seen both sides of the discussion do it. And frankly, it's disturbing. But it's also human nature. People want to make their case as strongly as they can, so they do that by presenting the facts in the easiest to understand and the most compelling light they can. And unfortunately, that happens to be a simple narrative that oftentimes ignores important information. So what I'm saying is this. Stop trying to think of Kim.com as either a folk hero or a pirate king, and try to dig a little deeper into what's going on. Don't have much more time left to do that here. Maybe a future episode we'll talk a little bit more about it. But the bottom line is this. If you're believing one of those two narratives, either of them, you're missing a big part of the story, and you need to think about what you're missing, the same as what you're hearing. That's all for today. Until tomorrow, which we'll be talking about technology. Once again, going away from the copyright news, as usual on Friday, this is Jonathan Bailey, signing off.